Hello everyone, To the Nature just started. Today's theme is to protect the world's albatross from bycatch. We'd like to talk to Ms. Yasuko Suzuki of BirdLife International. Thank you for coming again, Yasuko.
Well, thank you for having me back. It's my pleasure to be here again.
Please tell us about the current status of albatross bycatch.
Yeah, sure. So let's just do a quick review of what we discussed the last time in June. So albatrosses, they are huge birds traveling so much distances, such long distances over the ocean. And they spend about 90% of their life over the ocean. And there are 22 species in the world. And out of those, 15 species are threatened with endangered. And the main reason for it is fisheries bycatch. So that's an accidental capture in fishing gear. And they're especially susceptible to bycatch in long-line fisheries and trawl fisheries. And there are already established and effective mitigation measures, so ways to reduce bycatch. And depending on some countries, there have been already some really positive results of reducing bycatch within their EEZ. So that's within 200 nautical miles from their coastal line. And with those really positive outcome, there are about 30,000 seabirds saved from bycatch annually. So that's a big number. But still, there are some problems left, especially in the high seas. And annually, so every year, about still 100,000 albatrosses are getting killed in fisheries bycatch. And sadly, this is something that Japan is also involved.
What is high seas?
Oh, sure. Yeah, thank you for asking about high seas. So that's the ocean beyond national borders. And this is a really huge area, about 50% of the surface of the Earth. And albatrosses, they fly really, really long distances. Like, they can travel several hundred kilometers within a day. So, like national borders, it's really nothing to them. So to protect albatrosses from fisheries bycatch, conservation on the high seas, that's really important.
Are there any organization overseas high sea?
Yeah, so it's not really, one organization is like managing the high seas entirely or anything, but there are some fisheries management organizations, and I would like to specifically talk about tuna regional fisheries management organizations. There are 5 of them in the world, and as the name implies, they manage tuna fisheries within certain regions of the world, and they pretty much manage most of the high seas of the world. And that area that they manage and the range that albatrosses move around, that overlaps so much. So specifically, 84% of albatrosses ranges, that's within those 5 or I should say that's within the seas that 5 tuna regional fisheries management organizations manage. So it is really, really important that those organizations act together. And in fact, those organizations, they already recognize how serious fisheries bycatch issue is to seabirds. So they already have regulations in place. And I talked about specific ways that can reduce seabird bycatch during the last episode. And some of them, they need to be used when vessels, fishing boats operate and overlap with albatross ranges.
Where do albatross live?
Yeah, sure. So out of 22 species, 18 of them, they live in the southern hemisphere. And like I introduced our social media campaign, it's called Albatross Stories. That's for public outreach that we are doing in the UK and in Japan and in some other countries. So just I want to talk about it a little bit because so that tells many people what albatrosses are like and their ecology, biology, and then these species breed on South Georgia Island, which is in the southern Atlantic Ocean. And specifically those 4 species, out of these, 2 of them are threatened with endangered. And particularly one of them, it's called gray-headed albatross. Their number declined over 40% just during the last 11 years. So that's a really, really rapid decline, and we are very worried about it. And I would like to talk a little bit about Japan's involvement in this issue. So if we can think about how big the area that albatrosses travel around and the areas that fishing boats operate and where those fishing boats are from, actually Japan's fishing boats, they overlap with albatrosses the most, among all these fishing nations. So you can, tell how we, living in Japan, is actually related to this serious issue.
Why bycatch is still such a big problem?
Well, so although those regulations are already in place under those regional fisheries management organizations, actual monitoring to evaluate how the regulation is actually working well or not, that's still really limited. So, for example, those 5 tuna regional fisheries management organizations that I mentioned earlier, they say only at least 5% of fishing activities by each country need to be monitored. And then one of those 5, they actually says, well, at least 10% of fishing activities need to be monitored. But in other words, about 90% or more, those fishing operations, they don't have to be monitored. So that's a big, big problem. And some fishing nations, they report their fishing vessels are actually not complying with those mitigation measures that's required under the international regulation, and that's reported from those monitored vessels. So when we think about those vessels or fishing boats not monitored, we think that many of those boats are not actually using the mitigation measures that can reduce seabird bycatch. And so those monitoring, what's happening is that those observers, those people who collect data, of fish catch and seabird or total bycatch, they collect data, and then we call them independent data. But the number of observers, that's pretty limited in each country. And we don't think, asking each country to increase the number of those observers, rapidly or dramatically, that would be possible. We don't think so. And a good thing is that another way of monitoring fishing activity is actually being developed, and it's called electronic monitoring. So in addition to human observers, like something like, video cameras or some other small devices that can monitor, like when fishers are actually fishing, and if they are using those mitigation measures that can reduce seabird bycatch, if that's being used or not. So that can be monitored by electric monitoring. And one way of doing this is to put devices on the fishing vessel. But the second way of doing this is to actually using satellite data. And for example, so there's an NGO called Global Fishing Watch that's collecting this kind of satellite data. So fishing vessels, each of them ping their signal, and satellites can collect those signals, and then we can see as data points. So we would know where fishing vessels are moving around and actually doing fishing activities. So if we compare that data to what's being reported from each fishing country, if they are actually doing night setting, which is to use or set fishing gear during nighttime when birds are not very active, we can compare those, what they are reporting and what actually satellite data is telling us. So hopefully this kind of electric monitoring, like on the vessel and off the vessel type, they can be introduced to more vessels and more fishing nations start using. So we think that would be a real game changer to tackle this bycatch problem.
And now, please tell us about your BirdLife international activities.
Sure. So as a global team, we are directly engaging with fishers. So for example, the Albatross Task Force that we talked about during the last episode. So that's kind of like grassroots-based activities that we are doing. We are also engaging with those regional fisheries management organizations. So those are international commissions. So we attend those meetings, and government of each fishing country, they also attend. So we have direct engagement with those governments. So that's another thing we are doing. And also we started engaging with supply chain. So that's, supply chain means, that includes all these different companies that handles seafood between where fish, got caught and, where we eat those, delicious fish on the table. So between ocean and table, there are so many companies involved, and we started engaging with those companies because bycatch issue is not really well known among the companies in the supply chain. So raising awareness of the issue is really important for us. And in Japan, we started engaging with supply chain companies about 2 years ago. We held a seminar to raise awareness, and actually we are holding 2 webinars this July for these supply chain companies. And then we really think this comprehensive approach from different aspects to tackle this big conservation issue called bycatch is very important, and we really hope that companies in supply chain also feel the same, and they start collaborating with the fishing industry to tackle the problem, because this is not really a positive thing for anybody, because fishers, the baits that they are using to catch fish, they are getting stolen by seabirds, so they are losing some money. And for supply chain, it's a business risk if they actually source those fish that was caught by a vessel not complying with international regulations. So I really hope they understand all these issues and start taking some actions with us.
Are there any actions that consumers can take
Sure. Thank you for asking. That's really important because we feel that consumers wanting to make changes and become a driver, we think that's really, really critical to tackle this issue. So the first thing consumers can do is to know there is bycatch issue. There are some animals like seabirds getting killed. Those animals are not getting eaten, so it's like really wasting those lives. So knowing about it is one thing, and also telling this issue to their family members and friends, that helps to raise awareness with more people. So the listeners of this episode is already one step ahead of this, compared to many other people in the world, because you now know there is serious bycatch issue happening. And another thing we really hope that consumers can contribute to is to demand transparency of the system. And I'll tell you more about this because, what transparency, you might think. So right now, about bycatch, so the people and companies in supply chain and consumers, nobody knows the fact that actually we are part of this issue. We don't know it. It's not intentionally not knowing, but just we don't know because there's not much information available to us or public. So we want consumers to question the current system and demand transparency so that consumers have an option or they can choose fish that was caught by fishers who actually use those mitigation measures to reduce bycatch. The system itself within the supply chain and then the industry need to change, but consumers can actually demand the change. We think that's very important. And the ways to do it is to maybe, ask your supermarket, like customer support or customer desk, if they know anything about bycatch, or when you eat out, maybe you can ask the restaurant, how the fish that you are eating is sourced. Is that sourced sustainably or not? So those are the things maybe some consumers feel comfortable doing. But in Japan, many, consumers are probably a little bit shy, and that would be, maybe the hurdle is too high. And if you feel that way, one thing you can do is to choose sustainable seafood. And you can do so by finding a seafood product that has a label called MSC labeled. It's Marine Stewardship Council certified seafood label, and it's a blue mark with fish logo on it. And some large retailers like nationwide supermarkets, they carry this type of seafood. And what you are doing actually is to support fishers who do not overfish and who is actually doing their best to reduce their impact on the marine ecosystem and environment. That would include, reducing bycatch. So what you're doing is to support those fishers. And actually, bycatch is included as one of assessment standard of Marine Stewardship Council. So that's why when you choose MSC certified seafood, that means you are supporting fishers who is doing good things for the environment. So hopefully it was not too complicated. But I want to say that shopping is voting. So when we go to the supermarket, we make lots of decisions, what to buy, what to choose. And that's really similar or the same as voting for something that you believe in. And so hopefully the next time when you go out to shop some seafood, hopefully you remember this episode and think about maybe finding sustainable seafood or asking your supermarket if they carry any sustainable seafood.
Thank you, Yasuko. We're talking about protecting the world albatross from bycatch today. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
はい、今日は英語放送をお届けしました。ちょっと難しかったんですけども、いかがでしたでしょうか？こちらもね、アーカイブになりますので、繰り返し聞いてね、英語の勉強にもなりますので、はい、もう国際会議目指して頑張っていきましょう。先日、世界アルバトロスデーのシーバードウィークのウェビナーに私もね参加しまして聞かせていただきました。そうしましたらですね、オーストラリアの漁船などでは電子モニタリング進んでるみたいなんですよね。あとその機械自体はニュージーランドもすごく開発が進んでいるみたいなので、日本ももう頑張ってね、こちらの電子モニタリングなども含めて混獲防止にね乗り出してほしいと思います。なんて言ったってもう私マグロ大好きですし、そしてアルバトロスも大好きなんで、両方のもううまくマグロも食べられるし、アルバトロスの絶滅も防げると、まあ両方、助けていけるよう私もね何かしなきゃいけないなって思っています。そこでですね、都内で MSC 認証のマグロを使っているレストラン、この度予約しました。今度ね行ってみますので、またね食べてみて感想を皆さんにねお伝えしたいと思います。引き続き川崎 FM でお楽しみください。ご唱和の時間です。来週も聞いてくださいね。はい、声高らかにお願いいたします。来週も Do the Nature、 来週も自然の中でお会いしましょう。